and happy Sunday, and welcome to Connections. I'm your host, Ed Clark. It is Sunday, April 2nd, 2023. Jesus, Lord. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. And as always, my lovely co-host, Cherelle James, is here. Hey, Cherelle.
Hey, how you doing today?
But, Cherelle, time is flying. And,
Hmm.
we're about to hit Easter. So I hope you got your Easter bonnet purchased already and your shiny patent leather shoes. So you look good at Easter Sunday service next weekend. But, on a serious note, we have a lot to talk about today. We'll cover some news, but I got somebody that I promised that we would bring in here. Her name is Kweilyn Murphy. She's the meteorologist over at WTVD 11. And just a little bit about her. She started her career at WQED in Pittsburgh. And if anybody knows, that's where Mr. Rogers was filmed. And she was an intern there. And she specialized in English and children's television in her degree at Ohio University. She later went on and changed up and became a meteorologist. And I want to find out how in the heck do you go from that to being a meteorologist? So, and again, I want to bring people on the program, Cherelle, who can inspire folks, can show people a different way that you're not locked into a particular profession or anything like that. And I know you have a lot to say about that too. About you don't know where the journey is going to take you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you absolutely don't know where a journey is going to take you. I started out in criminal justice major at Elizabeth City State University and ended up with an MBA, and I operate in the accounting and finance arena. And so the two separate different, the lingo's different, the thought process is different, just totally different, but it all ties into who the person is and what that connection is with the person. And I'm super excited to be able to talk with Kweilyn today and find out kind of what was that thing that helped her make that switch, and how did she get into this career, and the good things that she's doing, because I enjoy watching her in the mornings. And it's a sense of pride, because I think that in some ways we need representation, right? We need representation everywhere. And for the young girls out there, for African Americans out there, I remember a quick story about my husband that wanted to be a meteorologist growing up in Bertie County, but it was on the same man from the time he was little till he got to college. It was the same man on. And so he was in a smaller market. Things didn't change as often. And so he felt like it wasn't a great career there. And he ended up taking on another career, thinking that that field wasn't available because he kept seeing the same person for all of those years. And I think that area has changed significantly over the years, and breeds a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good story. So let's hear the story from somebody else. I think somebody's here with us. And so, Kweilyn Murphy, welcome to Connections.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Well, you know what? I've been dying to get you on here for a lot of different reasons, but we gave your bio and all that stuff in the intro, and let me just start out so we don't waste any time. How the heck do you go from uh, Mr. Rogers to being the meteorologist in Raleigh?
Well, Mr. Rogers was one of my initial jobs out of college. I always had a draw towards children and children's television. So I thought that was the route I was going to go initially. But when I became a junior in undergrad, that's where things began to change a little bit for me. And that's where the interest of meteorology was kind of fueled, because we had to start our practicum courses, meaning we were on a rotating basis weekly of different duties. Sometimes it was weather anchor, sometimes it was sports reporter, sometimes it was actual reporter, and there was always a weather component as well. And while none of us had any degree in meteorology or expertise, there was still somebody who needed to take on the role that week. And nobody ever wanted to do it, but I would always say, I'll do it, because I didn't want to really report. I never saw myself going out in the street and asking somebody whose house just burned down, how do you feel? So I would take on the weather component. That was old school: chalkboards, magnets, cloud, sun, all of that. So that's how it began. I graduated, long story short, the interest never went away. And I went back to mentors and guidance counselors and said, hey, what do you think about this? And what schools do you know? And when they offered up the information and said, basically, go for it, I did.
So, thank you for sharing your story and kind of how you got started. But one of the things that I talk about a lot, and when we talk about who we are as a person, and are the things that stick, right? Not the things that just happen to fall in our lap, because things fall in our lap, we'll do them for the time being, and then we move on. But it appears that this has stuck. So, what is it for you that you say this is why it's sticking, and this is why I do it on a day-to-day basis?
You know what? It's so interesting to hear you say that, and for you to have the perception that it's something that maybe has fallen in my lap and that has stuck. I will tell you that this was the most challenging thing that I've ever done, and that still is on a daily basis. I struggled in getting ready for meteorology school again. I had been out of school for probably 6-7 years, and I had to go back and take intro to calculus classes, calculus 1 and 2, get a tutor while I was still working to just get into the school for qualification. And then from that point forward, you're trying to catch up to kids who have been in school still, they're oiled up and they're doing this every day. I'm coming from a profession, quitting a job and then coming back to school. So our brains don't function that way. But then to try to grasp the concept of the atmosphere and how it works. This is something that challenges me still today. And I think that's kind of the draw. Ultimately, the goal is to keep people safe. But I think being able to explain what is happening and to break it down to basic forms is why I'm so interested in it. I started off with a fear of storms as a child because I'm old school. And my grandmother used to make us turn off all the lights, turn on the transistor radio, and stretch across the bed when we had storms. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew lightning and thunder were scary. So, that's how it started. So now to be able to explain all of that and to be challenged daily, because weather changes all the time. I get forecasts right, I get them wrong, but I accept that because it's part of the science.
Well, Kweilyn, you know what? You are responsible for what I wear every day because I wake up in the morning, and so you have a big task because I don't want you to have me going out of the house with the wrong thing on. If you're listening, this is Connections, and the voice that you hear is Kweilyn Murphy. She's on WTVD 11 every morning. I get up early, so I see her around 4 o'clock in the morning, almost every morning. So, and she spends a lot of time looking at the weather and severe weather in particular. And I want to talk about that for just a second before we get back to, some of the other things I want to talk about, because my career, and I mentioned it in the intro, is that I was at FEMA for a long time in external affairs. So I met weather people all over the country. And this thing that happened in Mississippi, those tornadoes, that outbreak, tell me about what goes into when you and the rest of the crew are trying to figure out how to communicate during those severe outbreaks, because everybody's panicked. I've been in newsrooms where everybody's, screaming about we need to be on the air now, and the sirens going off and all this other stuff. How do you get yourself prepared to try to communicate that information, and what goes into that kind of emergency broadcast that you guys are doing?
As meteorologists, we are looking at data several weeks out. So there's a chance that we've seen indications of this type of tornadic outbreak for maybe a week and a half leading up to it. And it's just a trend that will continue to follow. We'll continue to follow model runs and model updates. And then it's usually as we get closer, when things are really solidifying 3-4 days out, we understand that, hey, there's likely going to be a severe weather situation on our hands. So at this point, we are trying to prepare our newsroom because we want to try to push them in a direction of making preparation and making weather a top priority. That's really the thing. Talking with our producers and our directors, of course, our news directors are aware as well. But when we can make weather a top priority, meaning lead for our newscast, that allows us to get that information out to the public. And then come day of, it's just a matter of waiting for it to unfold. And at that point, you're nowcasting. But, people get overwhelmed sometimes. Like my dad's a viewer, of course, in Pittsburgh. And sometimes he'll say to me, They're already talking about storms a week out. We can't even enjoy the sunshine today, you know? And I said, you know, Dad, I do that too, but that's our job because why? Every day you're getting new ears, new eyes. People aren't watching the news all the time. People aren't prepared. And our goal ultimately is preparation and safety. And you understand this being with FEMA. And if we can give those long outlooks and heads up, that's what we're going to do. And day up, we really want people to take things seriously. Meaning if you live in a mobile home, you cannot be in your mobile home that day. You have to find somewhere else to shelter. And yes, it's an inconvenience. Yes, it's an inconvenience to be watching the radar before you leave work or before your kids head out to school. But ultimately, it'll be worth that inconvenience if we can keep all of you safe. So that's really the priority.
So I too was not with FEMA, but with the state emergency management. So I really understand weather and planning weeks out and watching and making sure you have a good response ready for when it's time, you know. And so I do understand the importance, and I thank you. I want to say that on record that we thank you for what you do on a day-to-day basis, because it's so vital and key to just life, right? To making sure that we are here for another day, another minute, another second. Inside of this, I would love to know that from where you are today, what else are you looking to do inside of your career? Where do you want to go?
You know, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure that out. I wish I had the answers. I'm so grateful for the leadership that I have here with Disney, the ABC station that I'm with now, and for leaders I've had in the past, because these are always questions that arise, meaning they're not just concerned about keeping me here. They ultimately want to help to propel me and help me get to the next place, even if that means they cannot retain me, right? They just want to see growth. And that is not something that everybody can experience with leadership and with managers. So I'm grateful for that. I'm trying to figure it out. I do, of course, focus on try to be present and day to day, especially with a job like mine where you're always looking forward. Forecasting, you know, I try to make it a goal for myself to be present. But I do believe that when I see something or maybe hear something, sometimes that'll be the spiritual spark that I need that will influence the next step. So I don't know, it may be some sort of teaching. It may be some sort of consultant work. It may be out of weather altogether. I love working with kids. I think they deserve everything because they're so pure and we've been poured into and they deserve to be poured into as well. So I don't know. Stay tuned for that. We'll see what comes up down the line.
Well, I don't want to run out of time because the other reason why I wanted you on here, other than to confirm that you can tell me what I need to wear in the morning, is that this love for kids, it comes across, but also just a genuine person. I think, you know, the weathercaster in a lot of communities, people think they know, right? That, you know, they stick to one weathercaster. They won't look at another channel, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So that means there are people looking at you for inspiration too, whether you know it or not, right? In the jobs that we have when we interface with the public, a lot of people believe they want to model themselves after you. You're especially in a good position because people see your face, right? And they hear your voice. Little girls probably say, I want to be like Kweilyn Murphy one day. How does that make you feel? And how do you internalize that and take that, you know, to when you go out in the community and interact with other people, knowing that people look at you like that?
It's a, I won't say it's a burden, but it's always a reminder. It's a constant reminder to be kind to people. I'm always aware of my surroundings, and I'm always aware that there will be people watching, even if they're not directly in my face. I am aware that they're around. So I want people to understand how to treat people. I want people to understand that we work hard. We're on television, but I could do the weather in sweatpants and a baseball hat. You know what I'm saying? If I could do that, I would, because that's the last thing I actually do is my hair and makeup before I get on air, which is like 7 minutes ahead of time. But I just want people to know to be kind, to work hard. I'm still working hard every day. And for kids who say they want to be like me, I say, be better than me. Do great, because they're smarter. These kids are so smart now. They're so much smarter than I am. And so there's so much more to learn. And they can be the great, people, the next creators that we're going to be looking forward to. And they'll be the next people that we're looking at for inspiration.
Yeah, Kweilyn Murphy, I hear some music in my ear. That means that we need to take a break. Can you stay for 2 minutes? Because I want to wrap up. So everybody stay right there where you are. When we come back, we're going to wrap up with Kweilyn Murphy from WTVD 11. And we'll be back in just a minute.
Hi, my name is Cherelle James, and I am CEO and co-owner of My Local CFO. We provide outsourced fractional CFO services, and what that means is that as a business owner, you are good at what you do, but sometimes not so good when it comes to the numbers. And so we handle that for you. We help you understand what your numbers are saying so that you can make better strategic decisions, as well as help you budget and forecast so you know where you're going for the future. So the client experience here at My Local CFO, from the time they call us or they walk through our door asking us about the services that we have, is a family-oriented one that we want them to be at ease and relaxed, because we know when you're dealing with your finances, that's a stressful place.
My local CFO cared. They would always answer my phone calls, be there when I needed, and it was a feeling that I had with that company.
There's a lot of big CPA firms and accounting firms out there, but they're mostly worried about the larger clients and not the smaller guys that need to help the startup companies, and that's what My Local CFO does.
Hello, my name is Derek James. I am the co-owner of My Local CFO. A client may need My Local CFO services because we're kind of the bridge between the average bookkeeper and your yearly visit with your CPA.
My Local CFO works with our clients not only to meet their needs, but to exceed their needs.
If you're just starting a business, there is no way possible that you can stay on top of the financials, take care of the marketing, perform the work. You need a competent team that can help you to stay on top of your financial situation. My Local CFO is it.
My Local CFO fits a niche that's in today's small business climate. People need good accounting, but they don't need full-time accountants.
My Local CFO, financial solutions for a stronger future.
And welcome back to our second segment of Connections. I'm your host, Ed Clark. Cherelle James is in the house. But we got a special guest, Kweilyn Murphy from WTVD 11, my weather lady, for everything. So, Kweilyn, when we left, I don't want to take up too much of your time because you are working. But I know Cherelle had a question for you, and I really want to get this in before we have to let you go.
Yes, absolutely. And I got to ask this question just woman to woman, right? I definitely work in a male dominated industry that historically is male dominated, and that's the accounting and finance industry. And when we typically look at the news and specifically meteorology, right, it's very much male dominated from a historical standpoint. And in the break, Ed was talking about how there was a day that it was all women on the news, like it was a historic day, a historic moment. And I just wanted to get your perspective of you as a woman in the news and in meteorology, but also the future of meteorology. Where is it going as it deals with women, and particularly African-American women?
I think the future is very bright. I'm very encouraged. I grew up seeing mainly men and male meteorologists on television, but in my experience, as far as work goes, my previous chief meteorologist in New Orleans, for example, for 8.5 years, was a woman, and she's been there for 42 years. So all I've known is strong women, strong leadership, strong performers, top performers. And that's what I've been around. Even as far as news directors go, I've had two strong women, not just women, but two strong Black women. And so this has been my umbrella. And so I've been uplifted through them and with them. And now I'm in a place where we are all three morning meteorologists are all women. And so I only see greatness and brightness from this point forward. The children and the students that are in school now that have reached out to me as far as internships go and just advice in general, a lot of girls, a lot of young women, and they are so excited. And like I said, they're so much smarter than I am. And so they're going to be great. I'm just very excited for it. I'm happy to see the transitions that have occurred. And it's going to be important because weather is not going to get any better as we watch, the decades and the centuries go on. I don't know how much longer we're going to be here, but what I do know is that storms are going to get stronger. We're going to have more catastrophic impacts from hurricanes and flooding. Rainfall is going to be greater. And so we're going to need people who can wrap their heads around these concepts and who can communicate clearly to our viewership and our listenership about what the stakes are and what the concerns are and how they can make preparations.
Yeah, those are all good points. So, hey, Kweilyn Murphy, where can we find you online? You got a presence on social media that we need to follow you on?
I do. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, newbie to Instagram. I think just last year I joined, and then Facebook as well. And Kweilyn, Kweilyn is enough. You'll find it. It's KW. KW.
And we'll put a link on the website as well and stuff, so we can get you to Kweilyn Murphy, who's a morning meteorologist at WTVD. And you always trip me up when you end up on the weekend. I don't expect to see you on the weekend. It's all good.
Yeah.
So last thing, Kweilyn, before I let you go, I've been in, again, newsrooms all over the country. And one thing that I can say is that news is not the same everywhere, meaning that the talent that's on air is not good sometimes.
Oh.
Now, what I will say is that the whole crew on the morning news at WTVD, and the reason why I watch is because I've been in so many newsrooms, is you guys are at a whole different level in terms of how you present, also how you interact with each other and whatever. But not to disparage the people that have been in those smaller markets, but what I know is that people are trying to get to these major markets, like a Raleigh, but like Brittany Bell now at ABC in New York. When you started, did you ever think in your wildest dreams that you would be, the morning weather person in a major market? Because Raleigh is a major market, with the potential, because you work for Disney, to be like Brittany and move on to something like the national scene. I mean, just think about where you were that first weathercast that you did, and you were one of those people who weren't very good. You weren't, but none of us were when we did our first, broadcast. Did you ever imagine yourself being in a position where you potentially could end up on Good Morning America or one of those things?
What's crazy is that my first weather gig was actually a freelancer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is a top 20 market. But I was absolutely horrific. But Colleen Marin gave me a chance, and she saw something, and that was enough for me to build my resume tape to get the first real job in Greenville that allowed me to get those reps in. And I just apologize to the people in Greenville, North Carolina, who had to put up with me and all my mistakes while I was there. But I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to learn there. New Orleans is not a top 20 market, but it's a top 50 market, and it's an international city. And we experience all type of weather there. And so that was really, I think, the place where I was able to grow my craft and hone in on my personality a bit more. And that's where my news director gave me that chance for the morning show. So I just, at this point, I'm open, and I'm just grateful for all opportunities that come my way. And I've been on GMA, so I've had a little taste of that, but, and I've interviewed for other network jobs, but I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to connect with community. That's really important to me. And that's why I love being in the Raleigh area. And with my team here, Barbara, John, and Kim, they're just the best. So I'm so grateful.
Yeah, well, Kweilyn, I know, like I said, I could keep you going for a long time. But so this is the deal. You got to come back. I mean, so if Barack Obama could do the show more than one time, you can. We'd like to invite you back because there's some other things I want to talk about community and those kind of things, because you're starting to show up in the community doing stuff like women's empowerment, and a lot of people are excited to see you there. That's a event hosted by Foxy 107 and Radio One, and people just, again, you're just so personable, and I think people have a lot, taking a shine to you, like we say down here. Really appreciate
and I just am really grateful for that. I want you all to know how much I appreciate being embraced by the community here. That's important, because without the community, there's no viewership, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, there you go. That's Kweilyn Murphy at WTVD 11, and we'll let you go, Kweilyn. Now we got to talk about some bad stuff like the news, but
I'm sorry.
Anytime you want to come back, we'd certainly love to have you back.
I look forward to it. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you. That's Kweilyn Murphy with WTVD 11, and you know, Cherelle, again, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation was that I need to inspire people to do more, right? And you got to start somewhere. You never know where the journey's going to end. But here we got a successful, meteorologist on one of the top markets in the country that started at Mr. Rogers as an intern. So let's take a break. I hear some music. So let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll chop up the rest of the news, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Be the difference at Elizabeth City State University and discover your strength, ignite your passion, and prepare to make a difference in the world. Nestled in northeastern North Carolina, ECSU is your home away from home, offering a quality and affordable education in a nurturing and supportive environment. Size does matter, and ECSU's small size means that students know their classmates, students receive one-on-one attention from their professors, and students know that the faculty and staff are committed to their academic success. Welcome to ECSU, where your success, safety, and comfort matter. At Elizabeth City State University, students come to discover their passion and leave to conquer their dreams. Whatever your passion is, you can be the difference at ECSU.
And welcome back to our third and final segment of Connections. I'm your host, Ed Clark. That's Cherelle James in the house. And we had Kweilyn Murphy in here from WTVD 11. We had to cut that segment a little bit short because she had to get ready for the noon news. And we didn't want to have her out of pocket, Cherelle. So again, thanks to Kweilyn Murphy. We'll have links to her information. So follow her on social media. She seems to be a genuine soul, Cherelle.
Let me just say this, and because you could see it. She said, and I didn't get a chance, and hopefully when we talk to her again, I talk to her about it. But she said that I didn't want to be the one to go to the person whose house burnt down and ask them how they're feeling and what's happening. And you can see, and kind of going back to that core of things, that she wants to make sure you're prepared and that she can equip you or help you, versus being there in the aftermath, right? Trying to pick up pieces when maybe she could prepare you where you don't have to pick up those pieces in the way of your life or things of that nature. And so you could really, if you listen to what she was saying, it goes to the heart of who she is, I think it is. And that's really caring about people with an impact on kids, an emphasis on kids. But I so enjoyed it, and I can't wait for us to get her back again.
Yeah, most definitely. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff we can talk about. But speaking of kids, Cherelle, this is a horrible story. In Nashville, Tennessee, a school shooting. A former student at the Covenant Presbyterian School went in, killed 3 children and 3 adults, and then was killed by the police. It's all on camera. If you're watching us on the replay on the podcast, don't expect me to show the video. I'm not going to do it. We've seen enough of these videos. Now, the one thing that, if you wanted to show anything, Cherelle, and I know this will never happen, those people who believe guns should be everywhere, they should show the aftermath. what it actually looks like to be shot, but they're not going to show that. Cherelle, I've had training with firearms. You have too. I own firearms. I don't know if you still do, but I still do. But the North Carolina legislature just made it easier for any clown to carry or with concealed or unconcealed. And a lot of states like Tennessee and North Carolina have been moving in that direction. And the North Carolina legislature overturned a veto by the governor of a bill that would allow folks to bypass the check with the local sheriff. What's going on here, Cherelle? What am I missing? I know that we have a Second Amendment right. I'm not stupid, right? I mean, I've read the Constitution, but there's other things in the Constitution too. And the country wasn't just formed on having guns. It was formed on a lot of different things. So why are we here again with another school shooting in thoughts and prayers?
So, mental health is real. So let's just go there first. Mental, and I don't know anything about this child at this point, and this in this school shooting, but I know that there's 3 children dead and 3 adults dead, right? And I know that there are still issues that are happening, and gun safety is one of the things that you'll hear people say that guns don't kill people, people kill people. But when you have a disrespect for the gun, or you don't have proper things in place, whether it be at home or whether it be in the government, right? Rules and guidelines, and then of course, proper placement of gun locked up, bullets in a different place, things of that nature. And then having those conversations with your kids, and you guys heard me say this in another episode that we've had previously, that those conversations have to happen. I grew up in a home with guns, but I knew how to put them together at a very young age, but I also knew how to respect a gun. I also knew what not to do and not to touch them and things of that nature. And I just want to be clear that the supporters of this bill for the state of North Carolina, they're saying that, well, since there's a federal background check already required, this is just redundant. But what I think it does is, for the state, yes, the federal has a background check requirements, it's already there. But when a state says, okay, we're going to have a law too, it lets you know that the state is being responsible. The state is saying, hey, we want to make sure that we have good gun control in place. So it's not about the redundancy of the law for me, more so than it is about the statement that you're making to say that this is no longer required. And so with that being said, can people get guns off the street? I'm sure they can, and I'm not disputing that at all. But do we still need to have laws and things in place? Yes, it's just like your household. Just because your child stays out past whatever time that their curfew is, doesn't mean that you don't need to have a curfew, right? There's consequences to when, because there's a law, so to speak, in your home. There's a consequence to when they break that law that's in your home. The same thing here. And so by not having it for the state, we're saying we're good. We're okay. We don't need gun control. People are good. Federal's got it. We don't need to, doesn't need to be at this level. And I just think that it just sends the wrong message to your citizens. And I'm all about owning guns. I'm all about, have your right to bear arms, but I'm also about gun control and making sure that we're very clear that we're serious about it. And it just seems like that they're just saying, no, we're good.
Yeah, no, we're good. And we're not good. We're just not good. I get really emotional because I got a grandbaby and 2 grandchildren that go to school, and even in a Christian school like the Covenant School, you're not safe. And one of the other arguments that people make and things that are they try to pass like they did in Tennessee was they also have legislation on I'm not sure if it's passed already. I know they've been talking about it, allowing you to have weapons in churches, in schools, or whatever. And I know there's always the person that stands up and says, well, if people had weapons, then this would have been stopped. I'm not so sure about that, because you would probably be outgunned by the person who's coming in you won't have an assault weapon like the person that's breaking through the door. But I'll leave it at that, Cherelle. I mean, I think I'm sufficiently worn out by watching those kind of things, and I don't know what we do. I mean, we complain about a lot of things, and then we turn around and not do things to help our children. And to that point, we didn't talk about this, but it makes me think about another story that I saw this week, and maybe you saw it, about the principal who was fired because the children at his school saw a picture of the statue of David, and David's naked, and so the school board fires him because he says that he promoted pornography. Now, last I checked, the statue of David by Leonardo da Vinci was finished in 1504. It is prominently displayed in Rome, where people can see it all the time. Millions of children have seen it. It's been in textbooks for years or whatever. That's not the real story here. The story for me is this constant harangue that I hear from people on the right about protecting children and so on and so forth, but they're protecting them from the wrong things, right? They're especially in a place like Florida where this happened, they don't want woke, blah, blah, blah. And what they're not doing is telling their children the truth about how the world is, but they're telling them that, everybody should have a weapon. So again, I'll leave it at that and go on to one other story before we run out of time, Cherelle, which is the North Carolina legislature did do something reasonably well in the last couple of days. They put their budget proposal on the table. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but one thing I did see is a proposal to increase teacher pay by 10%. Now, I know you think about education a lot, and I certainly do. Teachers do need to be paid more, but talk to me real quick, your just visceral reaction to, a 10% pay raise when we know inflation is outstripping that and their money's going to be gone already. What's the truth about teachers and teacher pay and how we treat our teachers?
That's another past life for me. And I grew up in an educator's home. And so school and teachers are very dear to my heart. And it is disheartening, very disheartening, the amount we will pay entertainers versus the amount we pay teachers. And I know that we're in a capitalistic society, so I understand that, and I understand why it happens the way it does, but that doesn't mean that just because you know why it happens, that that's right. Anybody who's anywhere in life had a teacher, right? We all are standing on the shoulders of the teachers who were there for us, the teachers who taught us our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and beyond of whatever it was that we decided to move into and had to have instructions for. And they so passionately, and I'm talking teachers as a whole, right? Because there's outliers and exceptions to everything, but so passionately, they give everything every day for their students and the community, to ensure that their students are thriving, to ensure that their students can excel in life, whatever that means for that particular person or student. And we treat them as last a lot of the time. And pay is definitely one of those ways. So often teachers have to spend their summers after they've had our kids that we didn't want to be bothered with. They've had our kids all school year. They have to go work summer school to make ends meet. They have to work 2nd and sometimes 3 jobs to make ends meet and still show up and be responsible and be passionate and be the counselor and be the teacher and be the law enforcement in some of the classrooms and whatever else it is that needs to be done to our kids. Because majority of the times we're sending them to them and say, they're with you, you take care of it, you do it, and we treat them as if they're second, if not lower than second class. And I'm happy to see that they're in the budget. I'm happy to see that there's something for them. I think with inflation, 10% doesn't even get them to where they should have been in the first place. But if you're a teacher out there, I want to shout out some love to you right now. And if you know a teacher, call them up, or when you see them on Monday, give them a hug and tell them thank you, that you appreciate them, because we need to appreciate them a lot more than what we do, our educators, period.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's probably a good place for us to end today. Look, we had Kweilyn Murphy in here from WTVD 11. You can catch her most mornings if you get up at 4 like I do. She's already on the air, given the weather forecast over at WTVD, along with the crew over there, which is a really good crew. But not to disparage anybody else in the Triangle, because all the morning weather people are women now. In the Triangle, which is astounding when you think about 40 years ago, 50 years ago in this market. You never would have seen a woman on there, maybe as a co-anchor, not even field reporters. You mainly saw the woman as a co-anchor, and certainly not a Black woman doing weather until we had Brittany Bell, who's now at ABC in New York. And then Kweilyn Murphy may be on the way to ABC with her personality and everything. Hey, folks, you know what? Like I always tell you to do, go out and do something good for somebody today. And then come back and catch Larry Hall and talk back next week. And then catch us in 2 weeks, where we'll have another exciting guest. And then we'll talk about the news and whatever else we need to talk about. So have a good Sunday, and we'll see you next time.